There is a line on the 2021 song Lavender Fields which is a good summary of Nick Cave's 40-year career. People ask me how I changed. I say, it is a singular road. I think that one word, change, encapsulates the life and work of Nick Cave. No other artist has flipped so much in both musical style and personal temperament while also maintaining their creative vitality. Since the early 1980s, Cave has transformed from chaotic, death-wishing hellraiser into a gentle, mellow spokesperson for living with grief. His music has reflected his personal changes. When he was a lunatic, we heard it in the music. When he was grieving, we heard it in the music. When he was healing, we heard it in the music. When he was joyful, we heard it in the music. Now in his late 60s, Cave is arguably enjoying the most productive period in his career. In this video, I want to look at what makes a Nick Cave song tick and what characteristics he displayed to pull off such a consistently excellent discography. This video will not make you as good as him, but at the very least, we may get a better idea of what makes him so good. My first tip is to pick an unusual topic to write about. This is something that Nick Cave did on his seminal 1988 track, The Mercy Seat. If you don't know this song, then good. When you hear what it's about, you'll want to go and listen to it, and that's what we're looking for, a song that makes a great synopsis. So basically, The Mercy Seat is told from the perspective of a man in the final moments of his life as he sits on the electric chair, or the titular mercy seat, and protests his innocence. The endlessly descending chord progression and Cave's novelistic description of a man literally in the process of being burned create a thrilling sense of anxiety. I remember years ago as a kid listening to a radio show about the best lyrics of all time. The presenter, Dave Fanning, described the narrative of Squeeze's Up the Junction as a sweeping tale of a boy and a girl who meet in Battersea, fall in love, get married, and end up hating each other. His description of the song was almost as compelling to me as the song itself, and some may experience The Mercy Seat in the same way. So that's a little tip for you. Try and write a song with such an unusual story that people will enjoy just hearing what it's about. I did something of the type this past year. If you've watched any of my other videos, you may know that I am a qualified personal trainer, and I recently wrote a very strange song called Gym Girl that is partly based in autobiography and partly in fancy. So here's the story. In COVID-19, a young man engages in home workouts to combat his insomnia. That's true. When the world opens up again, he's in good shape and he joins a local gym that has just been opened by a group of lads he went to school with. Also true. There, he falls in love with a female member of staff. I'm not telling you if that's true or not. He and this girl hit it off right away. They have a great connection and she just makes his life so exciting. But he frets about how they can take the next step and become a proper couple. In the universe of the song, Ireland have just joined the war in Ukraine, and our hero has the bright idea to enlist as a soldier in the hope that Gym Girl will be impressed. So he joins, and of course it's a disaster. He loses many friends, and worse still, Gym Girl moves on with her own life and she moves to Australia to settle down with another fella. Russia is defeated, but the hero ends the war a cripple and he moves to Jamaica to settle down with a wife and 2 kids. So when the kids are grown and moved out, his wife gently suggests that it may be time to take a trip back to Ireland. The hero reluctantly agrees, and he and his wife journey back to his hometown, where he is dismayed to find that the old gym has been converted into a Starbucks. However, inside he finds her, the Gym Girl, now with a fully grey head of hair, but just as beautiful as ever. With his wife's permission, he and Gym Girl go for a walk, and after some meaningless small talk, she finally says to him, "What the hell were you thinking? We were getting on so well, why did you abandon me like that?" The hero says, "Look, I'm sorry. Of course I regret it. I was a young man in love and I wanted you to love me." The Gym Girl kisses him chastely and says, "You silly boy, I loved you already." And that's the end of the song. We're not done with the mercy seat just yet, because it's also relevant for our next tip. It can be difficult to pin down Cave's attitude towards religion. He's at different times scathing, sympathetic, and worshipful. I mean, look at this quote from the Red Hand Files. Does God exist? I don't have any evidence either way, but I am not sure that is the right question. For me, the question is what it means to believe. The thing is, against all my better judgment, I find it impossible not to believe, or at the very least, not to be engaged in the inquiry of such a thing, which in a way is the same thing. My life is dominated by the notion of God, whether it is His presence or His absence. I am a believer in both God's presence and His absence. We can say that he doesn't have any literal faith in God or the afterlife, but his work is laced with religious references, and he tackles the issue in a far more interesting way than plain old Catholic guilt. The phrase, the mercy seat, is a reference to the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. One of his most popular tunes, Into My Arms, begins with the iconic line, I don't believe in an interventionist God. The cover of Let Love In is a very obvious nod to the crucifixion of Christ, and how many references to gods, angels, devils, kingdoms, and on his latest album, even religious conversion. Cave appeared in the Wim Wenders film Wings of Desire about a dissatisfied angel. During COVID, he created a ceramic series about the rise and fall of the devil. And it's not just Christianity either. On the 2019 track Hollywood, Cave tells the famous tale of the Buddha instructing a follower who wanted to learn about death to go to every house in the village and collect a mustard seed from each one that had not experienced death. And of course, the follower comes back empty-handed. I've been interested in Buddhism since I was 16, so I was well aware of the fable before I heard the song. What's interesting is that Cave presents the story in quite an artless way, and yet it still somehow works. He doesn't bother to use rhyme. The rest of the song really has nothing to do with the Buddha or Kisa. It's as if in the middle of the song, Cave just tells us what he's been reading, and somehow it works. In one of his most unusual and compelling songs of the 2020s so far, Cave even dabbled in gospel. I'm talking about the 2021 track White Elephant. Now, if you haven't heard this song, you need to, or even better, go see it live, but have a bit of patience because the first half is more hip-hop than gospel. The song begins with a simple bass-driven groove and drums that sound a million miles away from the rest of the instruments. In a languorous spoken word style, Cave delivers baffling lyrics about talking statues and even declares himself a Botticelli with a penis. We are brought to the B section with a thunderous drum fill, and now the words switch from obtuse to direct. Interestingly, the B section is in the same key as the A section, but it doesn't feel that way. We feel that ascent into the next world. There is the illusion of a key change. This section even retains the bass line, though the fourth note is cut out, presumably because it clashed with the other instruments. Nick Cave is rightly regarded as one of the great lyricists of his time, but his words have not always connected with people. The music critic Robert Christgau took issue with I'm the captain of my pain from the song Straight to You, or how about the clunker from Green Eyes, this useless old fucker with his twinkling cunt doesn't care if he gets hurt. When I saw Cave in Dublin, there were people openly laughing at the line from Joy, I jumped up like a rabbit and fell down to my knees. I jumped up like a rabbit and fell down to my knees. But the most controversial line in his discography probably comes from the same album. In the middle of the song Oh Wow, a tribute to late bandmate Anita Lane, Cave proclaims to the world, She rises in advance of her panties. She rises in advance of her panties. Now, Cave is actually quite proud of this lyric, and his main defense is that you kind of had to know Anita to understand the line, although he does concede to a fan that this line exists outside the constraints of good writing. Now, whether you buy that argument or not, it does lead me nicely onto my next section, not necessarily bad Nick Cave lyrics, but Nick Cave lyrics that sound bad on paper. My favourite Nick Cave album is probably the 2016 masterwork Skeleton Tree. Given the tragic backdrop to this record's creation, it is understandable that Cave does not enjoy it that much, writing, "It may have some good songs on it, but has a vacuum at its heart." The one song from that album that still has a place in his 3-hour setlist is I Need You, and Cave is full of criticisms for that one too. I Need You, as a formal lyric, is a disaster. If we look at the opening lines, we can kind of see what he is talking about. When you're feeling like a lover, nothing really matters anymore. That is the kind of thing that could pop up on a Backstreet Boys song. Yet, when set to the haunting musical backing, it has, in Cave's opinion and my own, an extraordinary emotional power. This is something that Cave is quite good at, finding the right words to fit the mood of the song, even if the words on their own are not that meaningful. He has a reputation as a literary songwriter, but what I like about him is that he is not a lyrical snob. He is not above writing words like I believe in love, and he's certainly not above using the word baby. He does so repeatedly on the 2019 track Leviathan. The words could not be any simpler. I love my baby and my baby loves me. If this was presented as a poem, it would be laughable. Yet when you hear Cave singing them, it's nothing short of gripping. It reminds me of that famous anecdote about the writing of Hey Jude. At this point, Lennon and McCartney tended to write their songs separately, but they would still chip in with the occasional suggestion. At rehearsal one day, when McCartney got to the words, "The movement you need is on your shoulder," he was embarrassed and he promised John that he would change them to something more sensical ASAP. But Lennon urged him to keep them just the way it was. The words don't make much sense, but it doesn't matter, because they feel right in the context of the song. And Cave is the master of the feel lyric. In the epic poem The Sick Bag Song, Cave presents a deeply dramatised account of meeting Bob Dylan at the 1998 Glastonbury Music Festival. He writes, "Lost in the dark reaches of his hood, the stranger decanted from his boat and stood before me, yet I recognised in slow motion the beak, the squint and the fluffy chin, and all the world ground to a halt to accommodate this thought. It's him." Turns out this whole anecdote is not mere name dropping, but actually the setup to a self-deprecating punchline. Soon after I noticed, just in passing, Bob Dylan released Love and Theft, which got an A+ rating in the Village Voice. Bob was back on top. Meanwhile, I released Nocturama, which was a flop. Harsh words, but Cave has a point. It's not that the 2003 album Nocturama is a bad album, it's not, but it sounds like Nick Cave trying to do a traditional Nick Cave album when his heart just isn't in it anymore. Around the late 1990s, Cave was beginning to outgrow his Prince of Darkness image. He was beginning to mellow, most notably on the album The Boatman's Call. Yet if we look at the single Bring It On, it sounds like a callback to an earlier period. It sounds like something that would have been left on the cutting room floor of Let Love In. A lot of the classic Nick Cave tropes are there: a simple bass line that drives the music forward, sweeping declarations of love, a 60s style organ, yet somehow this time it falls flat. Cave's vocal performance on the chorus sounds very restrained compared to the chaos of his 80s work. Cave was beginning to mellow as a person, and in my opinion, it took him a few years to translate this new version of himself into confident, compelling music. He would craft some signature tunes in the mid-2000s, most notably the song Oh Children, made famous by Harry Potter, but it was not until the 2010s and the album Push the Sky Away that he began to find firm ground again. And this decade saw two profound changes in Cave's life that would deeply impact his art. Number one, the loss of his 15-year-old son Arthur, and number two, the deepening of his partnership with violinist Warren Ellis. Now, most of us would sit up and take advice from a genius like Warren Ellis, but Cave has also allowed input from some more, shall we say, lowbrow sources. In the book Faith, Hope and Carnage, he discusses taking pointers from none other than Coldplay's Chris Martin. This was 2019 and Cave and Ellis were working on the song Waiting For You. Originally, we had a very loud, super aggressive industrial loop that played completely out of time throughout the song. When we played it to Chris, he turned to us and said, "I love you guys very much, but is there any chance I could hear the song again without the fucking canning factory?" After some initial hesitance, Cave and Ellis complied. That's right, Nick Cave changed the song because Chris Martin told him to. Now this kind of backs up my earlier point that Cave is definitely not a snob. He recognises the talent of mainstream pop stars like Chris Martin and of course Kylie Minogue, and he's name-checked Miley Cyrus in song. When you think about it, the song Waiting For You would not be out of place on a Coldplay album. You could really imagine Martin rapping his falsetto around that chorus, and the aforementioned Boatman's Call is quite a Coldplay-esque record in some respects. Coldplay themselves have even dabbled in Ellis-like atmospherics in recent years, so perhaps this is not such an odd couple after all, although you will not hear Coldplay singing about twinkling cunts, I'm sure. As you can probably tell, I am a big fan of the book Faith, Hope and Carnage, which itself is a collaboration between Cave and Irish journalist Sean O'Hagan. I'm going to drop another quote from that work, in which Cave discusses the difficulty of finding a suitable collaborator. Collaborations that work are the most glorious and productive of things, but if the collaboration is not attended to properly, with care and respect, it can eat away at itself. The work can be so intense, you can forget to be friends. Cave has no such issue with longtime collaborator and bandmate Warren Ellis. Although a bad seed since 1993, Ellis's Important City outfit began to grow around the mid-2000s when he and Cave co-produced a series of film soundtracks. These days, it can seem like Ellis and Cave are an unofficial duo, although Ellis has only been credited in that respect once, on the album Carnage. It can even seem like Ellis and not Cave is the true leader of the group. Take this passage from issue 338 of the Red Hand Files, in which Cave outlines the process of recording a piece for a TV series. Initially, it seems to be a 50-50 partnership. Warren laid down a genuinely evil old-school bass line. I added some discordant church organ jabs and a circular chordal pattern on the piano, then screamed some obscenities into a microphone, which we reversed, pitch shifted, added in a low reverb, processed through a Decapitator distortion plugin, and sank deep into the mix. Against the car chase scene, this all felt tense, edgy, and perfectly adequate. Soon, however, Ellis begins to take over. Then Warren jumps up, "Put a fucking slow drum beat on it, boom boom bam, boom boom bam." Here we go, I think to myself. Louis lays the drum beat down. Warren leaps on a keyboard and adds a massive, super deep, predatory orchestral line which completely transforms this piece of music. He adds some horns, heavy, punk and demonic, and the track shifts instantly from small and nervy into something unearthly, powerful and apocalyptic. The scene takes on a dark new gravitas. We are all very pleased with this development. As Warren marches around the studio in his boots and his beard, waving his arms about and yelling commands, it is not the first time that I am left amazed by this man's unstoppable creative force and recognise the profound and terrifying privilege it is to work with him. In making this video, I've discovered a surprising characteristic that has been integral to Cave's success: humility. Cave may consider himself a genius, but he knows he does not have all the answers. His is the name in lights, but only because he knows it shouldn't be. So to close out, let's recap all the tricks you can take from Mr. Nick Cave. Number 1, pick an unusual subject matter to write about, like a man being burnt to death. Number 2, study religion. Number 3, remember lyrics are not poetry and it's okay if your words don't look great on the page. Number 4, don't chase your past. If you need to change, change. And number 5, pick your collaborators wisely. If you have a spare Warren Ellis lying around, pick him up and use him. Is there any tricks that I missed? Do you disagree with any of my takes? Is there another artist you would like to see me do a video on? As always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you very shortly.